Notion Mail, Notion's dedicated email client, is finally here, and in today's video I'll be walking through everything that you need to know. I'll be explaining exactly what Notion Mail is, all of its different features, some specific use cases that I've been using as a business owner, and potential future releases and some things that I would like to see inside of Notion Mail. So what exactly is Notion Mail? So obviously we know that Notion Mail is Notion's own email client, but what is the purpose of Notion Mail? What is it looking to do differently from its competitors? Well, at the Make with Notion event back in 2024, the team kicked off their presentation for Notion Mail by basically discussing how Mail had been left behind compared to other tools that we have within our softwares. And they spoke about how Messenger had advanced, how Calendar had advanced, how note-taking had advanced, but email had pretty much stayed the same since first was released. And the Notion team essentially identified three main problems with email. First of all, they spoke about how it's difficult to find your important emails amongst your herd of other less important emails. They spoke about the fact that writing emails is often a repetitive task. And they also spoke about the effort to try to organize your emails as having a lot of administrative overhead every time you had to move an email from one tag to the other. So Notion Mail's key idea really is to organize email like we organize Notion databases with views and properties. They also wanted to bring in Notion's amazing text editor so that you could bring life to your emails with things like callouts and headings. They have tried to combat the issue of repetitive emails by introducing snippets and auto replies. And finally, they've tried to automate as many workflows as they can with Notion AI. So let's finally jump into Notion Mail and take a look at some of their features. Now you can see here I have my Notion Mail open and I'm just in my inbox. And the first feature I want to take a look at is if I scroll down over to the settings and look at the actual inbox settings here. Now, a bit like Notion, we have the option to change the theme. So we could go for a dark mode, light mode, or system settings. And then the second setting we have here is inbox mode. And this is one of the features that is quite unique to Notion Mail. So we have three options. The first is classic. And as you can see here, the idea being is that you manage your emails with labels, starred, and important. Then the next thing we have is inbox zero. And essentially this is normally the method that I would use, which is that, or you try to get your inbox down to zero every day by marking your emails as done or sending them off and linking them off to tasks inside of Notion or filtering them out to your calendar. And then the final option is priority. So to prioritize your inbox by the status. And I think if I go over to the inbox now, you can see if I was to choose this option, I now have my emails organized by status. Now this inbox mode brings up an important point, and I think if I do decide to start using Notion Mail more seriously, it's probably going to change the way I work with email. Originally, as I said, I normally just use inbox zero and I try to filter out my inbox every single day and stop using my email inbox as a task list and instead send out any emails that I'm not going to do right then and there to my task list inside of Notion. But as I've played around with Notion Mail and got used to its different features, I've really enjoyed being able to send things using labels to different views. And so if I was to start using this more seriously, I think I would indeed go over to the classic mode and use it that way. So that's just something that if you have been using inbox zero, you'll see that Notion gives you a lot more opportunity to actually organize your emails and create different workflows and sort of ways of working inside the app directly. The second two features I want to look at is how Notion is treating email like Notion databases, and that is with properties and views. So inside of my inbox right now, if you look at the right hand corner, we've got a few things, but if we come over to this edit view option, what you'll notice is we have, a bit like Notion, the option to sort this by a particular way, a way to group this, and then we also have properties. And Notion will of course bring in some default properties that any email will need. So who this is from, the label property has come directly from Gmail, the subject, the body, the categories here have come over from Gmail automatically. So we essentially have some default properties. But within any of our different email inboxes or views, we have the option to create net new properties. So if I hit add property here, you'll see we have some suggested at the top, but we also have just the usual. So files and attachments, checkboxes, statuses, multi-selects, number properties, text properties. And so we can really add whatever properties we like to help us organize email using the properties in here. If I come out of this and shut down this menu, again, you can also group things however you like by the different properties that live within this particular mailbox. And we can also choose to filter this mailbox however we like. So if I come out of here, I could actually filter this to show things that are unread as well instead of just read. So you basically can treat this any email box or any view like you do a Notion database, using grouping, filtering, sortings, and adding properties as you like. So that's properties. And then the second point is down here below the mail option, we have all of these different views that we can create. And so to create a view, we can hit this new view button, and Notion actually gives us a bunch of view templates that we can start to use, or we can choose to start one from blank. But essentially a view is just a dedicated way of setting up a particular grouping and filtering and set of properties. One thing to note about views and properties, at the moment, it seems that Notion is handling properties on a view by view basis and an email box by email box basis. So if I create a property in here, typically what I've noticed is the properties only stays within this recruiting view, whereas I go back over to the normal email inbox and those properties won't be there. So they're not universal properties, they're unique properties across the different views. Once we start to actually look into our emails, we can look at a few more features here. So I've just got a pretend job application here. And the very first thing you'll notice is that we have some of these auto replies that are appearing. And so based on the information in here, I can choose any of these options, and Notion AI has come up with some good examples of something that I might like to reply myself. And so all I might need to do is click one button and then send, and then I've sent off my email straight away there. But if I decide I don't like what's been written here and I want to write my own thing, the next thing Notion has, and you can already see this appearing, is their / command and their opportunity to use Notion's text editor. So I can do a / open up all these different blocks, and you can see all of the different options we have here. So it might be that I want to start with a big heading to say hello. I might want to add a call out here and say this is a call out. At some point in time, I might want to add a quote block like this to say this is a quote. And so now we really have a much more intuitive way to edit our emails, but also many more options to actually format our emails. And I'd say this is a really strong feature for Notion now, as writing inside of any other email client I found is hard work, but also there's a very limited amount of options of what you can actually do. Better yet still, if we don't want to write the email and the auto reply wasn't great, we also have here down below our snippets. And so we can look through all of the different pre-templated snippets and decide to choose one of these here. So for example, let's say we want to follow up here. We can choose this email here. And so it's taken the name of the person, Samuel. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us today. Here are the main points covered today. And then what we have here are basically these variables that we can then input manually here. So what was the key points? This was key point 1. And I can just hit the enter button, go to the next variable. Customize all of this information that's showing up. And then once I'm ready, I can hit send. At any point as well, I can also decide to choose this insert availability option to schedule a time to meet with this person. And what this is going to do is create a button here that we can then customize. So it's given us some available dates based on the information inside of the email. So if Samuel was to have sent, I can do Thursday or Friday, then that would have automatically programmed in here. And then we can also customize this. So if actually we're not available Friday, we could mark that off as here. If we would actually like to offer next Monday instead, we can add that in here, and we can add the time frame that we will be available for. And of course the duration as well. We can change this all the way from 15 minutes to 1 hour. So you can customize the available dates and the duration. And then also if we click this preview link here, you can see this button is basically scheduling using Notion calendar. And so it has all of sort of Notion's branding. And so if I was this person, I could choose the time, I can enter the email that I want this to be shared with, and then I can schedule the meeting. Probably one of the most exciting features inside of Notion Mail is their autopilot feature. So if you come over to the settings here and over to autopilot, essentially this is Notion AI at its best. And what you can do is set different autopilot rules or AI prompts. And this is basically going to allow Notion AI to organize your emails for you. And we'll show you this in a bit more detail in a second, but you can see I've got a couple prompts here that I've been using. So I want the Notion AI to tag any emails from new applicants looking to apply to our agency workflow lab with the correct job title tag. Or another one here, tag any emails for prospects looking to work with us with the sales label. So essentially we can use autopilot to auto-organize or auto-categorize our different emails. And finally, Notion Mail has a bunch of keyboard shortcuts already programmed inside of it, which you can find by coming over to this help option and keyboard shortcuts. But as you can see, we have a whole range of keyboard shortcuts, essentially to make navigating and creating emails and sending emails as intuitive and as quick as possible. So those are all of the features inside of Notion Mail. Now let's take a look at some specific use cases and how business owners or agency owners might think about using Notion Mail. The first one I have here is this recruiting view, and this is one of the examples that the team showed in the Make with Notion event, and so I want to show it here as well. So essentially I've created a new view in our view section, and I've done a couple things. First of all, I've created this a couple new properties. So the new properties I have here is I have a recruitment or a hiring status that is basically taking us all the way from someone applying and receiving being put in our shortlist, going over to a candidate task, interview, all of that stuff, so we can track each applicant. And then the second thing I've also put in here is different options for job titles. I just have one at the moment, but as many job titles or job positions that you have can be put in these tags here. And then what I've also done is over on our default labeling system, I've added hiring as a label. So I've added those properties, and then the second thing I've decided to do is group this by the hiring status. So you can see now I've got all of these different statuses, and of course I can drag someone between the different statuses just like so. And then the final thing I've done is I've decided to filter this saying that the label contains hiring. So essentially, as long as I label any of my emails with the hiring tag, it's going to find itself here in this recruiting view. And then any other emails are going to be left out of this view. And so this is how you can sort of think of Notion Mail, a bit like projects inside of Notion, is that some emails only pertain to some labels. Now that's pretty good as it is, because it means now I have a dedicated view for recruiting that has a organized way of looking at this in terms of statuses instead of just when the last email came in. And over on my email inbox, I can basically use this hiring tag or this tags property to send emails over to that hiring. But using Notion AI or the autopilot, I can now automatically get Notion to tag that hiring tag. So to do that, what I'll do is come to settings, come over to autopilot, and I'm going to have a new instruction. And so I'm basically going to say tag any emails from new applicants applying to our agency with the hiring label. And I can save that like that. So now I've got this prompt. Anytime a new applicant applies, they will get that hiring label. You can also see, as we saw earlier, I've got another one that basically says, any new applicants, please tag them with the correct job title. So we can get the job title in there as well. So let me test that now. I'm going to send myself an email. So I've just sent myself an email with the subject line, applying for sales rep, and then some information basically saying I've attached my resume for the sales rep role. And as you can see, automatically, as that came in, autopilot has tagged it with the hiring label. So that's the first prompt working correctly. So if we come over to the recruiting view, I can see now I've got Sam automatically being organized into this view. So I don't even have to look at my inbox to find him. Now it looks like unfortunately this email hasn't been able to be tagged with the sales rep quite yet. But as we can see from a previous example, hopefully eventually Autopilot will also add this sales rep job title applied as well. And so what that now means is we can group the recruiting view by the status, but what we can also do is group it by the job title here. So if I decide to group by job title, I then can see all of the people that have applied for sales rep, and I could also change the filtering to the different statuses as well. So I could maybe only see people grouped by job title who are currently in the interviewing stage, as an example. Now here's another use case in the sales department. So let's say we have a sales team working on all of the different deals or opportunities for different prospects and leads. Well, now we can create a dedicated view for them as well. So in this view, again, I've created that by adding a new view here. And I've done a few things. First of all, I am grouping by the email or domain. And so now basically I can now be a bit more organized in terms of which clients for sending me emails and all of the communication I've had with them all in one spot. And then the second thing I've done again is I'm applying a filter rule that's basically saying that the label is containing sales. So only emails that have been tagged with sales will find their way into this particular view. And then thirdly, again, I can come over to the settings here, come over to Autopilot, and I have a prompt working for me here that says, tag any emails from prospects and leads looking to work with us with the sales label. So again, let's try adding a pretend email from myself and see if this works. So now again, I've sent myself a pretend email here that basically was asking to book some time with myself and to asking if I could jump on a discovery call to chat working together. And you can see this is coming to my email inbox and Autopilot has applied that sales tag automatically. So now when I come over to the sales view, I can now see from my Sam email, I've got this email coming in automatically and it's grouping all the other emails that we might have had together as well. So those are just some examples of the use cases with Notion Mail. As you can see, like Notion, this is completely customizable to whatever your particular needs or requirements are, and you can really create these dedicated workflows that actually complement what is inside your Notion workspace as well, to basically have views and ways of working that are specific to a process that you do over and over again. So at the end of the Make with Notion event, they spoke about some future releases that they're hoping to bring to Notion Mail. And the first one was having shared views. And this is something that I'd be really excited about, having the ability to actually take some of these views that I've created in my own Notion Mail account and share them across my team so they can also work in the same way. The team spoke about having a good connection between all of the other Notion suite of products, so their Notion app, of course, but also Calendar as well. And finally, more broadly, they spoke about the ambition to make this a really well tied together productivity suite. And this aligns with what we've all expected, that Notion is looking to compete with the likes of Google Workspace and Microsoft to basically have a suite of products that helps both individuals and businesses to run how they work. Now, based on those future releases and playing around with the Notion Mail app, here are a few things that I would love to see. First of all, as we're able to group our emails with views, I would love for there to be a compatibility with the information that we have inside of our Notion workspace. And as an example, it would be great, for example, to be able to have our projects databases come into Notion Mail and to be able to organize our mail by those projects. As you can see in my own Notion, I have this hiring dashboard, which has a hiring projects database. And so I basically have all of the different positions that I might be hiring for. And then when I open up these pages, as well as having other information that I'm organizing, I have the individual candidates that I'm also taking through the same sort of statuses that was reflected over in Notion Mail. And so what would be really great is if I could have this sales lead project be inside of Notion Mail. And so instead of having the tags be the job titles that were customized manual tags that I was adding, to have this be synced between Notion Mail. And so anytime I add a new position to this hiring projects database, it's in Notion Mail, and then I can organize my emails by those applicants inside of the different roles. A second thing I'd love to see, and the fact that Notion has the ability to add properties, particularly their text property, would be for them to bring in the other features that we have inside of Notion Mail. Specifically, I'm thinking about the chat feature. So as I said, we have the ability to have a text property, and so we can begin working on emails without having to actually send an email back. So we might leave a note for ourselves or for our team members to say, this email is important, or I've followed up with someone else to help with this email, without actually sending another email across. But what would be great is be able to have the chat feature inside of Notion Mail, so our team could actually chat to each other privately to work on a particular email for a client, let's say, without the client actually seeing that, and without them having to receive forwarded emails and long email threads where the team is basically working internally to solve an issue. An email client that's already doing this really well is Missive, and they have the chat feature that allows you to share emails and then chat alongside the email without the client being able to see. And so this is something that I think Notion definitely could potentially achieve, and something I would love to see. If you're excited about using Notion Mail, then you'll probably want to have a great setup inside of Notion. And so you should check out my Notion for Agencies video tour, where I have all of my projects, my wiki items, my meetings inside of Notion, and of course, now being able to connect it to Notion Mail. And of course, if you found this video useful, please do consider subscribing and leaving a like. And down below, leave a comment to tell me what you're most excited about for Notion Mail. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye-bye.